Now that is one cool intro.
I love that intro. Like, it gets better and better.
It does. We just got to keep improving the quality of the show and everything.
Well, this was great. I love the intro. I love both intros. Hats off to the creator of that, Miss Cynthia McDonald. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of In Black and White here on YFNA News. I am your host, Rick Lockhart.
And I almost missed it. I almost missed it. And I am Ethan Micheal, the resident white boy.
And so that everybody that's tuning in, so that you're aware, you probably are like, wait a minute, I thought it's supposed to be Monday nights. It's Thursday. No, happy little Friday to you. Our new time, our new air live show time is 7:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. And we'll be bringing to you this wonderful show. Ethan, how's your week been going, man? You've had a crazy week with all that you got going on. How many shows have you done this week?
Actually, I do not know the answer to that because I had 3 Monday, 2 Tuesday. No, 3 Tuesday, 2 Wednesday, and then 2 today. So it's one after another, but it's a lot of fun because I get to talk about things that are important to me, like this, raising racial awareness and bringing conversations to you that need to be had. Typically things people don't like to talk about. I like putting a light on those things.
Well, I have to say, first off, before the show that was on prior to this that you were on, what was it? Marie Delafont? Delafont, yes.
Delafont.
I definitely think that she should come on In Black and White and kind of talk about some of the things that you all gotten into on that show. Also, did I see correctly on Table for Two? Are you looking now to get out there in the dating world?
How is that relevant, dude?
I'm curious if that's what's going on, because our listeners and viewers might think that they have a chance and they don't know if you're on the market. So I figured, hey, why not put it out there?
Oh,
so on Ethan's other show on Mondays, Table for Two, if anybody's interested, reach out to him as well. Hey, happy Pride Month, by the way. I forgot to do this.
Yes, happy Pride Month, everyone.
Last week when we aired. Happy Pride Month for all of you all who are celebrating. But don't forget, we are still focusing on the racial issues and conversations that need to be had in this month as well. So we're not going to take our foot off that while we're celebrating Pride. But even in the midst of, there's been some conversation around Black Lives Mattering in the LGBTQ community, also meaning Black LGBTQ members, Black trans lives, all of those matter. And for those who are pushing for Black lives to matter, keep in mind that all Black lives do matter.
And the important thing to note is when someone says Black Lives Matter, they're not saying your life doesn't matter or your life matters less. They're simply trying to say that, hey, Black Lives Matter too. So it is not an attack on you when they say it. You don't have to respond with all lives matter.
And at the end of the day, here's the reality of that. All lives can't matter if Black lives don't matter.
Bam.
Keep that in mind too as well. Hey, I also want to shout out the 13%, who is now running on Monday at 7:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. I'm going to say quote unquote sister show. Cynthia McDonald, host of that show called Us. The sister show?
No, we're the sister show.
No, we're the brother show.
Oh, we're the brother show. Yeah, sorry, we're the brother show.
I don't know how Richard is going to feel about that. The co-host as well with Cynthia. So fine, whatever. We're the other show. Don't know how this gender identification thing goes when you're talking about shows. But shout out to the 13%. Make sure that you tune in every Monday night on YFNA News or here on Facebook to catch them as they address the issues within the 13% of the American community, which is the Black American community. Make sure that you are sharing this on your platform and click on over to YouTube, subscribe on the channel, and hit that little bell so that you can get alerts for every time we go live. It's like and subscribe? That's just a lot. Why can't subscribing be liking?
Subscribe, and have the notification bell turned on. You know what, Rick? I got to get Cynthia in here because she always gets it right.
Wow. Is that what you're doing? Cynthia, don't do this, all right? Hey, by the way, I think that we didn't get a chance to do this, and I want to say happy belated birthday to His Imperial Majesty, a.k.a. Emperor Doom, a.k.a. Richard, celebrating a big milestone birthday over
a.k.a. Professor Doom.
I don't know which side we're going by, but he just celebrated a milestone birthday, and happy belated birthday to you, Mr. Richard Graves, as well. Hey, so we got a lot to cover tonight, and so protesting has been a big thing. What are we, like 2.5 weeks now into our country protesting? And this is bigger than the civil rights movement, because all 50 states have been, for those of you that aren't keeping tabs, all 50 states are participating in protesting, as well as 18 countries that have now stepped in and gotten involved to protest injustice, racial inequality. And I just, so I thought it was funny. Here's the thing. We're a country that's founded from European countries, essentially. And now those said European countries have gotten involved in protesting America. Like, what does that say?
It should send a powerful message, is what it just sent. If other countries are getting sick of what is happening in America, wrap your mind around that. Other countries are getting sick of what's happening in America too. So if you are still opposed or not understanding of this Black Lives Matter, let that sink in just a little bit.
So the protesting that's been going on, Ethan, you and I got a chance to check out one of the protests in Romeoville. And I'm just going to put this out there. The community's probably I'm going to get some flack for this. However, this was my first protest. This was my first chance to
which I was surprised by.
It's hard being Black in America. I know. My life is a daily protest. However, I got a chance to participate in the protest. We got a chance to participate in the protest in Romeoville, Illinois, which I thought was first remarkable because, when we look at how protesting has been happening throughout the time frames and specific incidents that have occurred where racial injustice has been at the forefront for these protests, it's always been Black people and some white people kind of here and there and other communities represented, but predominantly you find or have found that Black people were doing most of the protesting ever since the civil rights era. Well, now we have protests that are taking place that are encompassing every walk of life, every background, coming together. As we mentioned before, 18 additional countries outside of our country are getting involved in protests. And when we found out about the protest in Romeoville, Illinois, we wanted to go check it out because of the diversity, because it's in the suburbs of Chicago, just to kind of get a feel for what was going on. And I think we have some footage that we can take a look at from our time at that protest.
Not anymore.
I will say, Rick, that was a very real sighting. Seeing all of this,
This was a very memorable moment and impactful moment in the protesting that I found to be something that I'll live with for and remember. So for those of you that are watching, if you're curious, the organizers of the protest have asked everyone to get down for 8 minutes and 46 seconds to simulate the time frame that George Floyd was on the ground with his hands behind his back yelling, "I can't breathe." Here we have a similar demonstration where one of the organizers has asked all of the children, anyone who's under the age of 21, to lay down, and all of the adults stand there and watch what's taking place. Watch the children who are laying on the ground and imagine that being your child that you can't do anything about. We didn't know if the motorcycles were actually in support of our protest.
Yeah, it's true. All right.
So I think thank you so much for sharing that, Ethan. I think first off, I want to commend a specific group out in Romeoville. So for those of you who just got a chance to watch that, you saw at the end, I think the bulk of the protesters. We got there, a little bit after it started, but on our corner as well as the opposite counter corner, there was a similar group that was also protesting for George Floyd and Black Lives Matter, so on and so forth. And the arrangement of this protesting in this particular area was organized by a group of high school students.
Kids. Yep.
That got the protesting
like a week.
In just a week. It was just a week. In 1 week, they decided that they wanted to get their community together to protest, and they were able to do so. High schoolers. Now, take a listen to that. There are high school kids that understand the gravity of what's taking place. High school kids. That was amazing. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Sorry. I was just going to say we met our guest at the Romeoville protest.
We did. And I want to go ahead and introduce our guest for the evening. We're going to talk to him about a few of his experiences while he was there. Please welcome Apostle Chris Hudson with us here this evening. Hey, Apostle Hudson, how are you?
I'm good. How you guys doing this evening?
Man, we're doing good. Thank you so much for joining us. So for those who probably got a chance to watch the live that we did while we were at the protest, unfortunately, Apostle Hudson, when we were trying to talk to him, it was really windy out there. So we invited him back on to kind of go through a little bit of what we talked about that afternoon. And I'm so grateful to have you back. So let's get started with, tell me a little bit. Well, first, Apostle Hudson from the Wallbreakers International Church. Tell me a little bit about where the church is located and what you got going on there.
Our church is Wallbreakers. We're going on 4 years this year. We are in the Romeoville community right now. Faith-based, man, love the Lord, have a good time in the Lord. Got a great group of people, man, that come in, and we just love community. Everything we do is about community. It's not just staying inside the wall. You can't have a name like Wallbreakers and stay on the inside.
No, you cannot.
No. And you were out there. At that protest on Saturday. Let me ask you, how long have you lived in Romeoville currently? How long have you been out there?
I've been in Romeoville for 6 years. 6
years.
Okay. And as we were I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
No, and as we were saying, I started from the west side, went to Hillside, Bellwood area. My wife is a Bolingbrook resident, and once I married her, this is
got relocated.
Past 23 years.
You're from the west side. I have to commend the west side, being a west sider myself, and then over there in the woods, we've traveled some very similar paths. Now, you also hold a position with the Romeoville PD. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I am the Romeoville chaplain.
Talk to me a little bit about, and let us know some of what that responsibility entails. What does that look like? What are some of the activities that you're engaged in that position?
It's not what a lot of people think. Right now, they have been really trying to change the aspect of what we do. But pretty much what we do right now is if there's a death in a family and somebody and the police are on scene and they ask for the chaplain to come out, then I would come out, listen to the family, pray for the family, sit with the family, give them ideas on funeral homes, things of that nature, help them walk through that process. So I help the police as they're walking through the investigation. I kind of care for the family, nurture the family, things of that nature. I'm also there for the police as well. So if there's anybody that needs prayer, anybody that just needs to talk to somebody. One thing there, that we do right now, I don't come in trying to put my beliefs on anybody, but they want somebody that's faith-based. So I come in just with an open ear, with an open heart, just ready to serve the community and the police department in whatever capacity that I can.
So there were some Romeoville police officers that were out there who were policing and ensuring the safety of the protesters. And I'm sure you have seen, just like everyone else, that there's been some discussion around police reform. And even at the protest, there was some discussion. Like, I found out that day, I found out that police officers only require 840 hours of training, where hairstylists require 1,500 hours of training.
Mm-hmm.
There's vast difference there.
And pilots is, I think, 320 hours.
I didn't know that.
That's even scary.
Exactly. Keep that in mind when next time I'm flying, and we're supposed to fly a little bit later on this year. Talk to me a little bit about, or talk to us a little bit about, what maybe some changes you've seen in the police relationship with the community. How has the police relationship with the community been in Romeoville?
Well, I want to start off by saying no neighborhood, no community is perfect. No community can be a Mayberry. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has their issues and have their problems. Right now, we're going through a transitional period. Our chief that we had over the past, I think 15, 20 years, he just retired. And now we have a new chief that's stepping in. And matter of fact, this is one thing I do love about the department, is they are extremely hands-on, even up to the highest ranks. So even at that time of the protest, the acting chief was out there at that time as well. So he was out there amongst the people talking. And what I love about them is that they're not afraid to answer those hard questions of what's going on in the community. Since I've been in the community, yes, have I heard of some things, some pullovers that shouldn't have went a certain way, but they're really far and in between. And that's not justifying it by any means, because any injustice is an injustice, even if it happened every 3 years. It shouldn't have happened in the first place. But like I say, from what I knew about the department, say 15, 20 years ago to where it is now, it's been 100% change. I have had an opportunity to sit down with the chief in light of all of the things that's been going on now, and he is open to sit down. We're looking at setting up a community forum, because a lot of people don't have the opportunity like I have to be able to sit down with the mayor or to be able to sit down with the chief. And as I quoted before at our vigil, as Martin Luther King says, riots are the voice of people who are not heard. So we want to make sure that the people of Romeoville, and I'm praying that this will spread, and it won't just be in Romeoville, but we will still. I love protesting. I love it. Tell us. I want you to tell how we feel. I want you to get out there and fight against the injustice. But after that's done, and I believe I asked that Saturday, okay, after we did this, now what? Now it's time for us to have a conversation. Now it's time for us to get to the next point. We can go through and have protests every weekend, but if we don't keep the lines of communication open to the point where, look, we're not backing down on, we need to see this change right now. And so we're trying to set up in Romeoville where we're going to be sitting with the mayor, and the mayor was out there as well. We're going to be sitting with the mayor. We'll be sitting with the chief of police, but we're also looking to be sitting with the superintendent of the school district that's out here as well, and bring all of them to the table with a couple of the community leaders, and bring the community in as much as we can with the social distancing. And we're just trying to figure that way out. But long story short, is so that the people can have a voice to their leaders, opposed to just having a voice when it's time to vote.
Have you had a chance to set any of that up yet, or is it just still kind of preliminary?
Right now, we're working on it. It's in the process. We got a great team called the Commission, which is a couple of community leaders and a couple of pastors that are in the area. And we're spearheading, working real hard, really trying to write, because we don't want this to be something that's just a passing thing. We're not doing this for interviews. We're doing this because we really want to see change, not just in Romeoville, but we want to see it across the board. Absolutely. So I'm praying right now that the Lord can give us a blueprint that maybe that can be helpful for other communities to be able to do the same thing. But everything starts with your leaders being willing to sit down and have a conversation. And that's one thing that I'm blessed in Romeoville, as well as in Bolingbrook, which is our sister community as well, is to have leaders that are willing to sit down and listen to what they have to say. But we're still in the process now of getting it together. I love to have you guys come out, you know, and set up a tent. Y'all can shoot your live from right there. The state of the village address live.
In black and white.
Yes, Lord. The only way it should be.
And I will say the mayor of Romeoville is incredibly supportive. Like, just listening to him speak, it was nice to see him out there. It was nice to see cooperation with the police. You know, one of the police officers was actually willing to take my camera and film for me to get, you know, they were very supportive and very kind. And it's awesome to have that within the community.
And one thing I just want to say about our Mayor Noak, is we didn't have to call him. He reached out to us.
Really?
Yeah, he reached out to us. He said, man, look, this what I just saw, man, we got to make sure that this never happens here. What can I don't know what to do, you know, but so can we get some things together so that, and so when I saw that, I said, okay, if he's willing to step up, I know I got to put whatever I got to the side and I got to step up so that we can lead this and get this ball rolling so that this will never happen here and prayerfully never happen again anywhere.
Yep.
Sure. And I take it, I'm sure that you have parishioners that get involved or continue to get involved with what's going on. Before I let you go, just out of curiosity, what does the leadership look like when it comes to arranging the sit downs with those officials? Do you have other faith leaders? Do you have some additional community leaders? What does that group look like?
It's a mixture of faith leaders as well as different organizations that have that are rooted in our community. And what we're doing is we're coming to the table and we're being honest. And one thing I told them is what we have to do is we know the change that they need to make. Okay, but we have to also be honest with ourselves. What change are we willing to make in this process? Okay, so if I'm telling them that they got to be different, guess what? I got to be different as well. Okay, so that means in order for us to move forward, and we're talking about Black Lives Matter, and you know, and right, I want to matter, but I also, what we're fighting for now is equality. We want to be equal. So that's what I'm telling my leaders right now. I'm putting on the inside of them is that we have to be equal in this. And until, because you know, dogs' lives, I heard the dog barking, dog lives matter. You know, if you saw the uprise when Michael Vick and everything, you know, dog lives matter, you know, animals, wildlife, everything lives matter. But the question is, now that you say my life matters, is my life as equal to yours? And that's what I'm putting into my leaders. That's the voice that I'm putting into them, is that the change that we want to see, it first begins with us. I can't expect anything to change in a community until my mindset changes as well. And we be the change that we want to see. And so that's what we put into our leadership. That's what we put into our team, that, you know, this is bigger than color. This is bigger than color. And when you really look at this through a faith-based lens, God doesn't look at color. When you look at 1 Samuel, when Samuel went looking for the next king, and he picked the oldest son of Jesse, God said, no, that's not him. He says, man looks at the countenance, but I look at the heart. So I teach my people that we're not looking at your color, we were looking at your heart. And if we got the same heart, we got the same brotherhood, that we can work together and love on each other and love our community even when it hurts, that we can take these hard truths even when it hurts, even when it's about us, and move forward. That's what we're shooting to do.
Well, listen, I'm looking forward to hearing some additional information, to hear about the progress that you all have going on. Maybe other communities in the suburbs and even trickle into the city can take some guidance, some notes, some pointers from what you all got going on out there. But it's just really good to see that you all came together as a community out in Romeoville. Again, it was amazing to learn that this was organized by high school students, and they only put it together in about a week. That was just a remarkable. And the
turnout was incredible.
Yeah.
Touched my heart. Touched my heart, so that we can be unified.
And the diversity of that turnout was, in fact, we spoke to Rachel, I believe her name was, who consistently insisted that we did not really talk to her, but we talked to the Black people who were there. Her presence there was only to learn about where her privilege she can lose the privilege and be of assistance and of support. And I really admired her for that, but it was great to see the turnout was as diverse as it was, because as I've said all along, Black people can't change racism. White people invented it. White people have to change it. And to see people backing that and getting involved to speak up and speak out about that was really remarkable to see. Apostle Hudson, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is there any place that people can find you or find information about what you got going on out in Romeoville and Bolingbrook?
Well, right now, due to the COVID and all that stuff, your social distancing, our location that we rent is closed down, but you can definitely find us on Facebook, WBC1. I'm sorry, WBIC1. I forgot my own thing. I haven't used it.
I know the feeling. On
Facebook, you can meet us there. That's where all of our sermons, that's where all of our Bible studies, everything we have is right there.
Awesome. Well, listen, thank you so much, Apostle. You have a wonderful evening and weekend. Be safe. Be blessed. Thank you.
And hopefully we'll see you again.
Yes, sir.
Keep us posted. We'll be back out there.
God bless you.
Thanks so much. So I want to get into protesting. It was great to have him back on and kind of talk about it. It's good to hear what the relationship with the community and some of their expectations from the police force and their reform practices. Here's the thing, and I want to make sure that I make this very, very clear. When we talk about protests, Ethan, people people say all the time that mainstream media has an agenda, and I think very much that we can see the agenda of mainstream media when we talk or when we look at the protests that have been taking place.
Right.
All of mainstream media has really geared these protests up to be anti-police and about George Floyd. But let's keep in mind that the outrage, and I've been saying this since we've gotten started on In Black and White, the outrage has been when we saw Ahmaud Arbery murdered in the street, when we learned about Breonna Taylor murdered in her house, when we saw Christian Cooper and Amy Cooper's exchange in Central Park in New York and her attempt to weaponize the police against a Black man just for being Black.
That was ridiculous. Like, how are you going to just straight out lie? Like, I'm going to tell the police you're threatening me? Like, the guy was just standing there.
You're an African-American male threatening me. See, that's very important that we remember that that's what she said. And then we learned about George Floyd. Make no mistake, this outrage, these protests, even though mainstream media has encouraged it to be about George Floyd and police reform, and that's a great place to start. Be mindful that this is something that is systemic. And this is racism that has been ingrained into our country's operation. The system that is built within this country is built around systemic racism. And these protests are us at a point, the community, our nation, at a point that we want to speak up and out against it. George Floyd was just the catalyst for it. But we've had other instances that just happened within the short amount of time. And we talked about this last week. We're traumatized. We saw two people murdered right there on video. Our country is traumatized. And these protests are the repercussion of that trauma. Now, I've heard some people saying that they're getting tired of hearing about the protests and they're getting tired of talking about racism.
Well,
so for those,
too bad.
Let's talk about that for a second, because I need my friends and family, my friends and followers, especially those of you who are white, who are tired of talking about racism and protesting. Let's be very clear. You have a luxury or a privilege of being tired. People of color, Black people, we don't have a luxury of not talking about race. Because of the way systemic racism is set up in our country, we face racism every single day in and day out. It's a consistent for us. So just because you're tired, welcome to the party. Welcome to the protest. Welcome to what life is like when you have to face racism. You're in it now.
And every day.
You're in it now. Keep going, because now we've gotten some talk about police reform. That's great. We have legislative issues that we need to tackle. We have things within government that we need to confront and attack. So this is by far from over, and it won't be over within a week or a couple of days. So with that comes our next topic that we're going to get into a little bit. So I'm excited about white troublemakers.
So am I. Although we better define white troublemakers.
So yeah, we're gonna define white troublemakers, of course.
Do I bring our guest on?
In just a second. So with white troublemakers, I think it's important, as I mentioned while we were just speaking to Apostle Hudson, that white people created racism. And I'm reading this book, White Fragility by Dr. D'Angelo. Let me tell you, I'm in love with this book, and my sister.
I don't even understand what white fragility is.
So I'm going to tell you, Ethan. There's this thing called prerequisite work in this anti-racism work. This anti-racism thing that we're doing here. There's prereqs that have to be taken care of, that have to be accomplished. And my sister, who's been fighting this anti-racism work as a pediatrician here in Chicago, she told me some of these things that needed to be done. I highly encourage you, suggest that you get White Fragility and listen to it. For white people, it's a chance to, and I found it on Audible, just if anybody's curious, just speaking to a friend who said they're sold out. So I think everybody's running to get this book now. But it's a great starting point. For white people, it's a chance to understand and confront what it is to be white and what that defense mechanism, how that defense mechanism jumps into play when race comes up, and how real racism is and how to confront that, and white supremacy. For Black people, it's a chance to understand how we contribute to white fragility. And I'm learning that there are times throughout what I do that I am contributing to white fragility. I am empowering or allowing for white people to feel comfortable in their fragility and not confront racism head on like it should be, so that we can get people to being anti-racist versus non-racist. And I've gotten a lot of people.
Or get them to be
white troublemakers.
Yeah.
So you guys, I'm sure, want to know what white troublemakers are. White troublemakers, and we're going to get into this now with our next guest. White troublemakers has been launched as an opportunity to stir up what's going on, speak up and speak out against racism, and ultimately start doing the work of anti-racism. I'd like to welcome back to our show Miss Kendra Pennington, who's here with us to talk about it. Miss Kendra Pennington, welcome back. How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
We're hanging in there. We're hanging in there. How are things down there in South Carolina?
Oh, it's South Carolina. That's about all I can say.
You're right. I feel like you're right in the area where you do deal with a lot of racial issues.
Yes. And my beliefs are definitely a minority here. I'm very outnumbered here, so.
And you are outspoken. Like every time I go past your page, you're just like no holds barred. You don't give a shit. You're taking this head on, and I admire it so much.
I appreciate it. That's the only way you can do it. Just take it head on.
Right.
That's it, and that's what you're doing. That's what you've been doing. So
Trying.
let's remind and refresh some of our viewers or people who are just tuning in. Talk to us a little bit about some of the active ally work that you have been doing so far before we get into white troublemakers.
So it's mostly having those conversations since, COVID and everything. That's at the beginning of all of that. That's when I started just making videos, and people would ask me questions, and I'd be like, you know what? I think a lot of people probably have these questions. Let me make a video. I actually made one a couple minutes ago about allies realizing that you're in a Black space. You need to step back, that even though we're allies, you just have to realize when it's time to step out of a space.
Kendra, let me ask you before you continue. That's a very interesting point because, again, as we talk about white fragility, right, there is a chance for white people to get fragile, to get defensive, even if you're an ally and you think that you're working for the cause and you're just supporting, but hey, you are still in the Black space. Talk to us a little bit about what that means.
So we're allies, and so we're fighting the fight with the Black community, but at the end of the day, we're still white. So what the video was saying is that sometimes you just kind of have to, you have to step back, and I think it takes a lot of maturity in your allyship. It actually happened today. I'm in a lot of group chats with a lot of different people from NPHC organizations, and they were having a conversation. And I just asked, I was like, is this a place, like, can I, be in this conversation, or do I need to step out. And they were like, Kendra, you're awesome. You're an ally, but we just kind of need to be like together right now. And I'm like, all right, I got it. And then you step back. But I think that new allies or people who are just getting into the work are really waiting for like that pat on the back from the Black community that, yeah, you're doing what you're supposed to do. And so they get like defensive about it. So it's something that I have a very hard time with. We've talked about this white centering and realizing that I'm not always welcome to the conversation, even though I'm an ally. So,
I think that, and thank you for sharing that. I think it's important to remember for people who are doing the ally work that at the end of the day, yes, you are still white. Yes, there are times where the Black community, we as a community, are going to need our each other for support. And that's nothing against you being white, but the fact that you are white takes away from the support that we're able to provide for each other. And it could be for a myriad of reasons.
Exactly.
Maybe someone is uncomfortable at this particular moment with someone else being white, so they're not open to share yet. There's a lot of things that could impact that. But at the end of the day, doing the ally work also means understanding when to take a step back.
Yes.
And Kendra, you're reading the book White Fragility, right?
I am. I've actually just started reading it. I'm working through me and white supremacy again. And White Fragility is such like a heavier read. It's not something I can like put on like and listen to while I'm on a walk. Like I have to sit and like listen and like really study it. So I'm slowly getting through it. It's a heavy one.
So I have the Audible version, and again, shout out to Dr. D'Angelo, who's not sponsoring this show by any means, but if somebody puts this in her,
well, she already contacted me. I was like, we don't need sponsorship. We're good.
If she contacts you again, let her know.
Yeah, we'd love to have her work something out.
Right. But I'm doing the same thing. I'm listening to it. And it really is. There are points that I have to go back. And like I said a minute ago, for me, this is learning work for me as well. And I'm learning where I am allowing that white fragility, that white space to overtake the ally work that needs to be done for anti-racism. You've been doing a lot, and we're so grateful to have you back on to talk about your new project that we're excited to launch in partnership with In Black and White. Let's talk about White Troublemakers. So break down the name so people understand what is, and I want to say Ethan and I were at the protest and he was like, can I wear a shirt that says White Troublemakers? And we thought about it, and we were like, well, if you go to a Black protest, maybe not. Maybe put anti-racism underneath it.
So I was thinking of the quote that I sent you guys when we first came up with this, is putting that on the back. Maybe I was like, hold on, read this too.
You might have to turn around. Exactly. But nonetheless, it's a great initiative, and we're excited to partner with you on it. Tell us a little bit about White Troublemakers.
So White Troublemakers came from, I think we were trying to get away from the word ally. Was it Richard Graves who said we don't need allies? We
don't need allies. We need humanists.
Good human beings.
Or good human beings.
Yes. And then I had one friend who told me, I don't need an ally. I don't need a friend. I need someone who's going to like kick up some dust. And so I think we're trying to get away from the word ally a little bit because we want someone who's, they're going to ruffle some feathers and kick up some dust. So White Troublemaker, it was a quote by, her first name is Tenora, I can't remember her last name, that says, allies are worthless. We need white troublemakers for Black justice, people who don't just do it for Instagram.
Don't just do it for Instagram. We ain't just doing it for the gram.
Right, exactly.
I mean, there were people out at the protest that were there to take pictures and then leave. And I almost felt bad. I was like, are we those people? But I didn't get a chance to share this a minute ago, and I want to share this now briefly before we continue. At the protest, I got a chance to lay down and participate in that demonstration of laying face down on the ground to simulate the experience George Floyd had. And I want to say this. I told Ethan, I couldn't breathe laying on my stomach by myself. I mean, this weight, I need to work out. Don't judge me. But just my own body weight was difficult for me to complete the full 8 minutes. I couldn't even do 8 minutes. I did like 7, I think. And then they were shouting out, I can't breathe. I'm like, I can't even do that. What are you talking about? I can't breathe.
For minutes on end. I'm like, I'm getting tired just kneeling here. Like, how are they doing this?
I want to roll over, but I can't roll over because I want to participate in this demonstration.
Right.
And for us, we were on grass. George Floyd was on the ground, was on gravel, was on a street, asphalt, with three individuals and their body weight plus his.
Yeah.
And it was so impactful for me to experience that, to go through that, that I think that's going to stick with me for the rest of my life. And I hope that anyone that's participating in any demonstration gets a chance to really feel the gravity of what that experience is like.
Seeing you on the ground, Rick, was I don't know if you noticed, but eventually I ended up just putting my head down because I was like, wow, it's really come to this. Like it's really sad.
And I hate you didn't get that shot. I meant to tell you to get that shot, but I didn't want to, like I said, I didn't want to be that person that's just going around taking pictures of things.
And, I mean, do you really think I should be the white guy? Like, hey, everyone here, you know,
it was a diverse protest. You'd have been fine. But I think that what you're saying, Ethan, is just that you got a chance to actually visually see it being me. My outrage when Ahmaud Arbery the situation first occurred, his murder was out there, and people were kind of guessing like, well, we don't see the full video, blah, 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 that we always hear. I wanted my white friends to just imagine if it were me. What if that were me? We can talk about this all day long, being that it was somebody in Georgia who you don't know, but what if that were me? And it very well could. So that would have been a great shot that I would have been able to just send over to. Yeah, see, look, now you can imagine it. Do something. Kendra, with white troublemakers, what is it?
So white troublemakers is right now, it is a Google form that you just click on the link and you can ask questions. So this came from, I have a lot of people who ask me questions and they like apologize. Like, I'm so sorry for, you know, I guess they feel like they're bothering me asking questions, or I don't know where to start, or I don't know who to ask, and all kinds of stuff. And so I was like, we need to give a way for people to ask questions. So it's a Google form. You can go, you type in your questions, and then about once a month, we're going to answer them here. Mostly, so we even talked about this yesterday, how much it is a huge privilege that we have to learn about racism rather than living through it. And Rick and I had a conversation yesterday about this being very, you know, white centering and definitely preserving that white fragility and white comforts. And absolutely, it absolutely is. So, and then when we answer it, you know, you have, you know, Ethan and I here. I feel like we're white troublemakers. And then you have Rick, who is, he is consciously consenting to, like, you know, answering these questions and helping us process things or answer things that, you know, we don't know from our perspectives. So I'm hoping to get a lot of really good questions.
Well, have we got any questions yet?
We have not gotten any questions. Last time I checked was about 40 minutes ago, and we didn't have anything yet.
Okay.
I
well,
think
we're going
to. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I think the important thing is we want this forum to be safe for people to ask those questions that they don't understand, and they want to ask, but they're scared to ask because every time they ask it, they get called racist or get told, you know, oh, you can't say you can't say that.
You can't say that.
Rather than engaging and trying to at least educate the person so they understand it a little bit better.
Well, and I think the thing is this, you know, when as Kendra mentioned, for any white people who are interested in this, and I definitely hope that you utilize this, we're going to continue to promote this because we will be answering some of those questions on our show once a month. I don't know if Kendra will come back and join us to answer those questions. And
I hope so.
Any old time.
With us. Well, we love having you here. So, but at the end of the day, what we have to understand is that although there are some questions that you may be afraid to ask, there may be some questions that you think you might get called racist for. I can almost guarantee you that if you ask the question, hey, I'm trying to learn, you won't get called racist. Because at the end of the day, what we need are white troublemakers. And the only way for you to be able to get to be a white troublemaker is if you ask the questions that are uncomfortable. So break out of that comfort at some point. White Troublemakers, the document, will give you a chance to ask those questions. Please make sure that you do list your name so that we can address you when we do answer the question. We will answer questions with names quicker than questions that are anonymous, just so you know. What's up, Ethan?
Kendra, if you could, any chance you could send me that link real quick so I could add it to the description of the video? Total failure on my part.
Ethan's been working on 500 shows a day, so I'm just impressed that he kept this one separate because this is his favorite. I'm not going to put that out there.
You know, Rick, no, I can't say it's my favorite, but it is one of my favorite topics, and I genuinely do love working with you.
Oh, look at that.
You know,
so that's a political answer for this is his favorite, but he can't say this is his favorite. Go with that. I'm all right with
Rick,
that.
you're just a natural at this. The camera turns on. Even when we were at the protest, you're just, hey, you're just really good at this. Like, I don't know why you're not a TV star yet, because you're just a natural.
Well, again,
here we are on YFNA News.
We're on YFNA News, and YFNA News is going to blow up. So I thank you for that, though. I appreciate that. I enjoy working with you, and this topic is definitely one that we're passionate about. And moving forward, as we continue to evolve, maybe one day we won't need in black and white. Yeah, right. But as long as we have these issues to talk about and to address, we will always address them in black and white. Kendra, anything else you wanted to add before we'll wrap up with you?
No, I don't think so, Ethan. I did just send you the link to it, though. So
awesome. I am going to.
Hey, well, you continue to enjoy all of your wonderful work that you're doing down there in South Carolina. We are excited to work with you on this project, and I'm looking forward to being able to change some lives and create some white troublemakers. So thank you so much for launching this with us as a partner with you.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
So there you have it. White Troublemakers. For those of you that want to get involved, White Troublemakers, Ethan's posting the link. You can click on that link. Go ahead and start filling out those questions. And then what we'd like for you to do is stay in touch. Make sure that you keep up with us. We can get you to being anti-racist. That's our goal. That's what we want to do, to get you to being anti-racist.
Yes.
Ethan, how you feeling?
I am feeling good. I'm just quickly adding the link to the description of the videos. It is updating right now. If you refresh your page, give it 10 seconds and refresh your page, you should see the link in the description of the video, which will go to White Troublemakers.
Well, just out of curiosity, did you include a link for anyone to join us to talk about how they're doing right now? No, not yet. Okay, that's fine. Well, I want to get to a couple of these questions. I want to get to a couple of the questions that we have.
I'll do that right now.
Well, it's okay if you can. Great. If not, don't worry about it. We have some questions here on Facebook, but I definitely want to say we wanted to check in with for those of you that are watching. We want to know how you're doing. There's a lot that's going on in our country, and our show. We typically try to provide the links so that you may be able to join in with us, and we will get calling.
Now updated. We
will get calling too at one point, but
yes,
we want you to join in with us. Let us know. Join us on the live. Talk to us about how you're feeling. What's going on with you? How are you processing all of what's going on? As I mentioned before, our country is traumatized. We've just gone through a pandemic. We have 44 million unemployed Americans. We're over 100,000 deaths. It might be more than that. I don't know the exact number where we are for deaths. I should have had that. I'm sorry. I didn't know that was going to come up until now. That's why we need producers that just can shoot information. But here you are working 2 jobs right now, Ethan. You're phenomenal. That's why you're my role model. But we have all of this going on. And for those of you that are watching, and there's been a lot of talk on social media. I've seen people just posting things, going back and forth, arguing, all because comments are misinterpreted or misread, or the tone in text is not the tone that's meant in person. So we really want to know, how are you doing? If you want to join us on live, go ahead and join us on live. I want to address real quick. Jocelyn DG said, I learn the most when I get uncomfortable or don't like the way I feel. Then it's time to ask, why do I feel that way? Jocelyn, listen, that's a great way to start addressing. Uncomfortableness is one of the biggest ways, if not the only way, that people really learn. Right. I know that it's taken, I got uncomfortable with all the ass whoopings I got growing up from my mother, but I learned that, that's probably not something I should do.
You're so damn tall.
I wasn't always tall. And trust me, my mother is taller she was taller than I was for quite some time. But Jocelyn, that's an incredible point. Thank you so much for sharing that. Moving down to
BestName Ever. I don't know if you're watching them on YouTube as well. What does the average Joe population need to do right now? How can we help?
Wow. So here's the thing. There's so many things that you can do, but there, as I mentioned, some prerequisites to get started, and we can list some of those prerequisites. But at the end of the day, it's about being able to, first off, have the ability to have uncomfortable conversations about where you are when it comes to racism and racial issues. And don't address it as you're not racist, because we all have inherent biases. Racism doesn't appear just in horrible people. Racism is a system that has been set up within our country, and it's systemic to allow white Americans to have privileges that people of color, and specifically Black people, don't get the benefit of in the same situation. So when you're ready to take on that realization, again, I would definitely suggest getting White Fragility and reading through that. I'm learning so much. But also start speaking up and speaking out and holding the people in your inner circle accountable for racist behavior that you see. As we've said on the show so many times, it's not enough anymore to be non-racist. You have to be anti-racist. That's the only way we're going to stop this from continuing to spread. But I will say that younger generation, it seems like they're almost over it. They look like they're not having it.
Can I say I am crazy surprised at the fact that NASCAR removed the Confederate flag. Like, that is such a win. But that's like the last people on earth you would ever expect. And the
Bubba Wallace.
The fact that they did that is like,
yeah, right. That's a win. Exactly.
Yeah.
Did you see Mississippi now still is the only state that has the Confederate symbol in their flag, and they're still going through some type of legalization to get it removed. Another story for another time, because I'm not surprised that it's Mississippi. Let me just say that. And my roots go into Mississippi. That's why I never go down there. Hey, Marie Delafont. Delafont. I'm going to get that. Wait, am I not saying it right? Marie, let me know if I'm saying it right. I think Ethan's overdoing it, but I could be wrong.
I'm totally overdoing it.
It's definitely, listen, he might have the advantage. So, Marie, thank you so much, too, for commenting. I checked you all's show out earlier. I would love to have you as a guest. Thoughts on how I can use my platform to be part of the fight? Marie, it's that right there. Just having a platform to speak up and speak out. When I caught your show earlier with our good friend Ethan here, the way that you all started out your conversation really was a great way to introduce the conversation of race and racism. You brought up a very interesting and efficient way to really elaborate where you are as a person and moving past that and understanding where your defense mechanisms are. Those are great ways and great conversations to speak up and speak out and have utilizing that platform that you have. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to watch all of it because, I had to prepare for it in black and white. It's just a thing. But I definitely want to go back and check more of that. Thank you so much for that question as well. Jocelyn asked if I was in the city. I think it's about people asking honest questions, though. Some people don't ask in good faith. That's very true. That is very true. I agree. But I think also that it's more so going to take, and Jocelyn, I'm just going to put this out here again. It's white people asking those honest questions. And here's why I say that. Because those conversations need to happen in white communities and in white spaces. And because we identified earlier that white fragility is the thing that it is, it's going to take white people to get the white community past that fragility, past that initial deflect and deference, past the tiredness of always having to talk about racism and protests. It's really going to take those honest questions to happen in good faith within the white community. If it's not done there, then that change unfortunately won't happen. So
next question from Marie. You mentioned prerequisites. What are the other essential readings you suggest?
Oh, I was hoping this question didn't come up because I don't have the list of books. Marie, I'll have to send them over to you. I know. I'm sorry.
Come on.
Because white fragility for me right now is so intense. Like I'm not even thinking about the other books. There's a list that that was referenced, and the list was referenced to me to extend to my white friends, and I'm like, yeah, but I want to check out some of these too. I got into white fragility and I lost the other books. They're on a list somewhere.
If you could give me the list, and I'll add it after the show, I'll add it to the description of the video.
Absolutely. Absolutely, I will.
Readings for white people? Is that what I should put?
Prerequisites for anti-racism. That's enough.
Okay, there we go.
Because again, like I said, these are things that I'm learning as well, right? And I want to be transparent in this. I'm learning where my obstacles are because of the situation and experiences that I had growing up, right? So the experiences that I've had growing up really give way to some white fragility and a misunderstanding of how to spend my energy and where to spend my energy, right? I had to have this conversation with my sister about this. There is an amount of time that I spend thinking that there are people who are going to change. For example, I don't know if you saw the post that I asked about how Trump supporters are still supporting him within his leadership right now. There was a myriad of responses that I got, both for and against. And I'm like, I really only wanted to hear from the people who are supporting him. I don't know why you all else decided to comment, but that's fine. Please share. But also, I wanted to also know what it was about his leadership specifically now that still entices people to follow him. Like, I legit wanted to know. And when I spoke to, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I apologize.
No, go ahead.
I think he speaks to, and I really want to choose my words very carefully here, because there was a point where that mentality appealed to me, where you actually feel, and it's not, I want to be clear, it's not, I don't think it's, well, it's not justified. It comes from a place of ignorance, but that you feel your whiteness is under attack, which saying it out loud is absolutely ridiculous. But that is how those, in my opinion, just going off my own personal experience, how those people feel. And Trump is the call it like it is, aka bullshit, call it like it is, which gives them that positive reinforcement. Like, yeah, we are being attacked. Saying Black Lives Matter is an attack on my whiteness. And he speaks to that crowd.
He does. And he plays very well to the middle class and lower class white Americans white American males who felt like they were left out of the conversation, and especially with the Obama era. So, that I get that. Also, though, what I got from that post was a lot of people are choosing his financial abilities and his financial successes in his position prior to COVID-19. And so to me, I thought I was learning, okay, now I understand people think that it's money and that's why they're following him. However, I spoke to who I'm now going to call and just classify as my mentor, my big sister, who's really been involved in this anti-racism work. And what she explained to me was, no, what you're missing is there is an inherent racism from people who can support someone of his character in a leadership position. And I'm thinking to myself, no, I got it. There are people who can change, right? There are people who can change. There are people that just don't realize that they're racist. And she mentioned it's very important to understand where to spend your energy. And if you're identifying people who potentially have that ability to change, then yes. But you have to be careful about the people who are adamantly within their racist views and don't realize they're in their racist views and don't want to look outside of their racist views. And those are also people who tend to follow his leadership as well. So at the end of the day, that is what it is. But the prerequisites, I'll make sure to get out to everybody so people can start doing the prerequisite work, because you can't get to your bachelor's without getting a lot of the prereq work done. And I'm hoping that I saw Marie had a response to how she was doing. I think she might jump on. I'm not sure.
Marie, I sent you the
wanted to jump on
Facebook on Facebook Messenger, and it's also in the description. If you click that link, it will pull you right into the stream if you're still interested.
And Jocelyn D has been also commenting. Jocelyn, if you want to jump on and let us know how you're doing after we get with speaking to Marie, by all means. But we can get into that in just a second. I'm glad that Marie wanted to share, because I think from what I saw in her show earlier, she definitely had some really interesting insight to how she's dealing with some things. And there she is, Marie Delafont. That was made
Whoa,
up.
get it right.
Oh
Did
my
a font.
De La Font with the T.
Did a font.
Hold on.
Marie,
Ah!
Marie,
I
thank you
wasn't
so
prepared
much
for this.
for joining. You just got done with the show and came back on, so I'm really humbled that you got to jump on with me as well. You
I'm
spent time
honored
with
to
my
be here. I'm so
co-host.
grateful that you're here and doing the emotional labor. And I'm just really grateful. Thank you so much.
No. Thank you. So tell us a little bit, how are you doing? How are you dealing with what's going on in our country? What are some of the things that you're doing to get through and be a part of any anti-racism work that you're being a part of, that you're able to be a part of?
Well, to be frank, I don't think I was awake before this. You know, like I don't think I understood how real it was. I wrote a post the other day on Facebook because a lot of people were saying like, hey, you've wondered if you would have been complicit in the Holocaust. Well, now's your chance to make history and stuff. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's one way to look at it. I feel like I just found out the Holocaust has been occurring for 400 years and I've done nothing about it.
You know, someone correlated that term on LinkedIn. And I remember while I was at work, I read this post and I'm like, first of all, who's putting this on LinkedIn? But glad you put it on LinkedIn. Because now you're hitting a completely different demographic of people, right? So and it was really intriguing to see the correlation of how the Holocaust is also applied to the Black American experience from slavery, you know, up until.
Yeah. I know it's not a direct parallel, but it's the best way I could get to express my complete obliviousness to it all. And then all of a sudden, when I chose to consume Black culture, like watching the video, This Is America by Childish Gambino, I watched it. I was a little bit high and that helped, but I was watching it and I was like, fuck, they've been telling us this whole time. They've been telling us, they've been writing songs about it, and we've been listening to their trauma for entertainment.
Oh, Marie, listen, we're not going to get into that right now. Okay, listen, we're not, because, you know, FCC regulations requires Ethan to go to bed at a certain time after.
Wait, what?
That conversation can go on for days, and I'm glad you brought that up, because there's a completely different discussion around how media and music have the impact and influences that it's made, and the consistency and drawing out of the Black American experience in our country and the trauma that we've been engulfed with.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, Marie. Is there anything that you would share that's helping for individuals who are trying to figure out how to get started, how to deal with, maybe just tired of talking about racism? God, if I hear that one more time, I think I'm gonna flip out. I'm missing you. I'm just gonna put it out there. Please don't. I'm just gonna put it out there.
Oh, it's so exhausting.
If the next time someone says I'm tired of talking about racism, I'm just gonna hashtag white privilege. Like, that's just it. Because what a privilege that you get to be tired of racism. Wow, lucky for you.
Right, and I think one of the things that I would say that I'm learning a lot. I'm fucking learning. I don't know if you know, I'm in Minneapolis, so I'm 8 miles away from where George Floyd was murdered.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I've been to protests every day for about 9 days or so, and then I anyway, doing some education. I think one thing I'm learning about myself and how I want to engage, for one thing, is what you pointed out. I'm realizing that just because I'm passionate about it, just because I've realized this is happening, does not mean I'm ready to be using my voice on public platforms and calling attention to myself. Like you say, I need to do the prerequisites. And that was really important for me to realize. And I made a few mistakes before I realized that. And so now when I am talking about it, I'm talking about it now. You've kindly invited me on here. I'm doing it much more cautiously, with a lot of humility and knowledge that I don't understand everything. I never will, right? But I will be making this a life long value to continue to unpack the systems of inequality that are in place and to find ways to create that, or whatever verb I need to put in there, to restore that equality, to restore that justice. And like you say, I like that you differentiated that phrase of Black Lives Matter. Yeah, we know that, but Black lives are also equal. I really, really appreciate that, because I'm like,
Let me just be clear. That was Apostle Hudson before me. That wasn't.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
That was
Okay. Yeah, you have a bunch of guests coming in and out. But I appreciated what he said then.
Yeah.
My apologies.
No, it's okay. Because it was very prolific. I thought that was very impactful as well.
Yeah.
To correlate that. You're absolutely right. Once we can finally get to Black lives actually mattering, then it's important to understand that Black lives are equal.
To make them equal, yeah.
Exactly. Well, listen, Marie, I don't want to hold you. I know you've already had a long show earlier, so thank you.
Oh,
so
shut
much
up! I could talk about this all day, and I shouldn't.
You have a lot to say.
I do.
But I want to say this, Marie. You mentioned something in the show prior to this about identifying and being okay with the shame that comes up, and I think that's a very important key moment and something to understand, that it's gonna happen, right? White people, when you confront racism and you confront probably your own biases, that's going to happen. You are going to feel that, oh, are you kidding? Really? Those are things like I had to identify when I'm contributing to white fragility. Like, I almost got defensive, like, no, I don't. And then I thought, oh, wait, this is what white people do. This is how they get defensive when they talk about racism. Oh, I can't go down that path. I have to understand this. So I understood that if I'm contributing to that white fragility, then here is where white people have that same moment of clarification or moment of defensiveness and how you move past that. And I think that when you identified getting around that shame is something that's going to be a key aspect in moving forward. That was also prolific. So thank you so much for jumping on and sharing with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, and thanks for having the show and for sharing. I really appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. It's what we do in Black and White.
Well, I'm honored you came on twice.
I'm subscribed to this shit now. You guys got an excellent show. Thumbs up, everyone. Thumbs up if you haven't thumbs up yet.
Please share it on your profile. Let people also see it. If you're not ready to use your platform yet, you're still kind of working through the prerequisites.
Yeah.
Share the show. We'll speak up for you. There you go. Thanks so much, Marie. Really
Thank you.
It. Take care.
Bye.
That was great. I'm so glad she got a chance to come on and share that with us.
And we have one more guest before we have to head out.
Before we wrap up. Okay, sounds good. Who do we have joining us? Jocelyn's joining us. Hey, Jocelyn.
Hi, friends. How are you?
Good. Yourself?
Well, how are you?
I'm good. I really like these conversations.
Well, thank you for coming back.
Yeah, for me, I think right now is trying to get to like gentle correction of people is one of the things I'm doing. Like, my mom texted me the other day. I actually pulled it up, and she was like, "Are the riots still going on?" And I just wrote back and I said, "They're not riots. They're protests." I said,
well, there were some riots that took place, but they're no longer taking place. We're just protesting now.
And then I said, there have been very few. I said, and the people who are doing that are not the protesters. They're a different, right? So just kind of gently trying to like give her new information. And she's not like all anti, but like I grew up in a white town in Wisconsin. Like
in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, that's like a subtle, right, to get her to understand like what the truth is.
Well, each of those little steps help, Jocelyn. But listen, let me ask you, how are you doing with all of the trauma that's going on in our country?
I mean, honestly, like I try not to really not care, but like make it about me, because I know whatever sort of like sadness or any, right, like I'm like, okay, you need to take action. Like, that's my thing. I'm like, okay, this is terrible and I feel terrible, but like, great, everyone feels terrible. You know what I mean? Like what can I do? Like, normally I don't talk about this kind of stuff because I don't need any pats on the back or anything like that. But like the Saturday before, I'm zoned out watching Hulu or something, and I get this curfew announcement on my phone, and for 9 o'clock, and I'm getting it at 9:02, and I'm like, what? So I like get off Hulu, I jump on Facebook, I jump on Twitter, people are trapped, blah, 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 all this stuff. And I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to go down there and I'm going to see if I can give someone a ride home. So I make my way sneakily down there and I kind of cruise around a little bit, but like, I'm not really seeing anything. And then I get to, I'm going to go home. I'm done. And I pull up to State and Roosevelt and there's a kid there. I'm like, this kid needs a ride home. And I like roll down my window. I'm like, hey, do you need a ride home? He's like, yeah, totally. And he's like, so then he like opens him and his buddy get in. And then it takes me a second to realize exactly what's happening, which is that they're putting all of the stuff that they got into my car. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, you know what? This is the least, at some point I was like, let's go. Like, let's hurry it up, type of thing. But I was like, who cares? This is the least I can do. You know what I mean? I drove them down to 75th. I dropped both of them off. They got rid of their stuff. And do you know what I mean? And I was like, and so I tell that story to my friends and you can see them like doing math. Like, what? You drove people home with stolen goods? Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, I did. Like, I don't like, that is not.
Justin, if I may ask, what race were the kids?
It was a black kid and it was an older black man.
Gotcha. Okay. Well,
yeah.
Listen, I don't want you to say anything else because I don't want you to criminalize yourself, but
it's over with. It's done and over with,
But I can understand that was an opportunity for you to provide assistance for.
Well, right. And I like to talk about it with my friends because you can see them like doing the like, what the hell were you doing? And I want them to understand that that's not the issue. People taking things from Walgreens is not the issue, right? Like, why is this even happening? You know what I mean? And
sorry, I have to interject for a second. I want to be real careful that everyone knows that I myself am in no way endorsing anybody stealing anything.
Not at all.
I have to make that perfectly clear.
Well, and I didn't steal anything. I didn't take anything. I mean, I didn't think that was the situation I was going to be in, but like it was like. I
can definitely understand the intent there.
You know what I mean? I was just kind of like.
But I know that you've been working on in enforcing and speaking up and speaking out in your circles, and what sounds like using that as a way to engage in conversation about being anti-racist.
Well, and my next not project arena is I'm really starting to try and educate myself and learn about defund the police. Like, what does that mean? What I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of information that's out there.
We need to do a show on that because there's a lot of bad information out there.
There's a lot of bad information about it.
And people just go to the there are people who are like completely abolish it. That is what they're suggesting. But defund does not mean get rid of all cops forever.
Right.
And so that's why I'm like digging in and learning and trying to figure out like, what does this mean? What are cops really good for? Not like I don't know what they're good for, but like, what are they good for? What situations do we need police? And all the other ones that we don't.
And I think we definitely have to do. We'll put a show together about that for the people as well. Listen, Justin, thank you so much for jumping in and sharing with us. We really appreciate it. You be safe. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Take care. So before we wrap up, I think we have a video that we want to. Are we still going to show the? Can we unpack how writing is understandable, legit form of expression of racial oppression? Well,
I think that's something we should say for next week.
Yeah, sure.
But that would be awesome.
Can we unpack how writing is an understandable or legit form of expression of racial oppression? Whew, that's so much to unpack within itself. So yes, I think that would be great for next week's show.
And Marie, I totally will extend the invite to have you on again in as a guest next week because I think you have a lot to offer to this conversation.
Absolutely, open invitation, Marie. Want to say thank you to our guest Apostle Hudson, for his time with us, as well as Kendra Pennington for launching White Troublemakers with us. We're really excited to get into that too as well. Ethan, any last thoughts before we wrap up with a video of our protest?
Slight problem. I may have to put the video up separately.
So we're not going to put the video up tonight. That's fine. We had the video earlier. But
yeah, I apologize. I'll get it up after this on our channel. It is a really powerful speech. This woman speaks for about 10 minutes, and
that probably would be better on the page anyway. Well, hey, listen, we have our show again next Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Central
Every
Daylight Time.
Thursday.
Make sure that you tune in with us. Make sure that you are sharing this on your social media platform.
Preferably on YouTube.
Check out our YouTube page. Make sure that you like and subscribe and hit the little bell.
There you go.
Don't worry, I got this. You won't be calling Cynthia on here for this. I got this. Again, also make sure that you check out our sister show, 13%, on Mondays at 7:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Also on YFNA News on YouTube. It's always a pleasure, Mr. Ethan. Thank you so much for this. Thank you for all of you all who are watching. Have a wonderful and safe weekend. And remember to get uncomfortable in black and white.
Have a good night.